Arroz con dulce is a sweet, creamy, and delicious Puerto Rican dessert that is typically enjoyed during the holiday season in the Puerto Rican culture. I'm gonna dare to say that arroz con dulce is to Puerto Rican culture what cookies are to the American culture during the holiday season. Now, typically this dessert does take some looking out and having to be on the stove mixing continuously so the rice does not get stuck on the bottom of the pot. However, today, I am sharing with you my Instant Pot recipe. This recipe is absolutely delicious. It tastes just like your typical stovetop traditional Puerto Rican arroz con dulce, except that you don't have to worry about it. You set it and you forget it and you still get to enjoy this delicious dessert. So let's go ahead and get started. First and foremost, we are going to begin with the base that is going to give the arroz con dulce that very unique flavor, and that is a tea of different spices. So for this tea, we will be using some star anise, some whole cloves, cinnamon sticks, and some ginger root. I love ginger root. It always reminds me of my dad. He always loves drinking ginger tea with some milk, so it brings back so many fond memories. And 2 cups of water. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to place our 2 cups of water inside our Instant Pot. We're placing our ginger root. And for my ginger root, honestly, that was about the size of my pinky, and it was cut up into 3 pieces. I'm going to add 2 cinnamon sticks. You are welcome to add as much cinnamon as you would like. And I'd say about 5 to 7 whole cloves. You can add as many cloves as you would like. The more you use, the more of that delicious spice it will have. And then for our anise, I'm going to be adding 1 star. Some people add more. I'm just gonna put 1. You know what? Let me make it a little bit more spicy. I'm gonna add 2. 2 of those of the anise. Once that is in here, we are simply going to place that lid on our Instant Pot. We're gonna make sure it's unsealed. And we're gonna come on here and we're going to pressure cook this on high for only 3 minutes. Really doesn't take very long. If you're doing it on the stove, it takes about maybe 15 minutes. 3 minutes, we're gonna let it do its thing, and then we'll come back. So our 3 minutes are up. I'm simply going to do a quick release of all that steam in there. All right, so now it's time for us. Oh, it smells so fantastic right now. We are simply going to go in here and remove all of these spices out. Some people like to leave like these things in there and the anise star. I like to remove them because I don't like them to be in with my rice, but I like to keep the cinnamon sticks and the anise star just for garnishing at the end. All right, now that our tea is done, it's so fragrant, it's so aromatic in here, it's time to do the rest of our rice. So for that, we are going to be needing 1 can of coconut cream, 1 can of coconut milk, 1.5 cups of medium grain rice, 1/3 cup of brown sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and I'm going to be using 1/2 cup of the sweetened coconut flakes. The coconut flakes are optional. Some people don't like to have coconut shavings or flakes inside of their arroz. I personally love it. And 1 box of raisins. Again, this one is absolutely optional. I love the raisins. If you don't like raisins, don't put them in there, okay? Only put them in there if you enjoy them. Now we're going to begin by adding our liquids. I always like to shake my coconut milk and my cream of coconut, because if not, on the top there is like the coconut fat that sits in there, and sometimes you have to break through that or use a spoon. And the same thing with the cream of coconut. If you just shake ahead of time, you'll get just a nice liquid that just pours in like this. See? No need to use a spoon for that. See? Nice creamy pour. I'm sorry guys, I thought my camera was recording and I missed this part. Make sure to put a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. That is absolutely essential to balance everything in there. So I added a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a 1/3 cup of brown sugar. But if you feel like you need more, go ahead and use more. I'm going to be adding 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and give everything a nice mixing. At this point, you can give it a taste to see how's the sweetness level. If you need to adjust, if you want to add more, you are welcome to add more to it. Now to this, I'm going to add the 1/2 cup of coconut flakes and the 1.5 cups of the medium grain rice. I've already washed it and rinsed it. I'm simply going to add that in there. Some people use long grain rice. I feel like the medium grain rice just gives it that really good texture that my family enjoys. And last but not least, let's add those raisins in. Give everything a nice mixing. Should look like this. So good. At this point, we're placing the lid back on the Instant Pot. Now, this is the only time I've ever used a porridge setting for my Instant Pot. It's when I'm making arroz con dulce, and that's the setting I use to make it, you know, what it is, arroz con dulce. So for that, I'm simply going to click porridge like that, and we are going to let it sit there and do its thing. We're not going to touch it or anything. When it's done and it beeps, we are going to let it just do a natural release of this. But this is what's going to create that delicious consistency that arroz con dulce has. So our arroz con dulce has been doing a natural release for 16 minutes now. I'm going to go ahead and release the remaining pressure that's left. Open it up and let's see what we have here. Ooh, so delicious. Smells so good. Let's take a look here. This is what it's looking like. I'm simply going to use like a little ladle and move it around a little bit like this. You could just use a regular spoon if you want to, but you see, you didn't have to worry about mixing forever. And it's all done and ready to go. This is amazing and great, and I love it how it turns out perfect every single time. Now we're simply going to dish our rice out. Yum. You can use a disposable plate if you would like. Right, look how yummy that looks. And then the remainder, I'm gonna put it on a regular plate like this. Now we simply give it the form that we want to give it, nice and flat. I'm just going to use some of these little things that I had from the tea I made earlier just to garnish it a little bit. Let me see here, like this maybe. You place this one over there like this. And look how beautiful that looks. I like to leave mine on the counter for a little bit just so that they get a little bit cooled before I cover it up with aluminum foil or saran wrap, and I place it in the fridge for them to continue cooling off and setting. Sometimes my son doesn't even wait till it cools down. He will actually eat warm arroz con dulce. He loves it that much. Now it's your turn to go ahead and give it a try. If you enjoyed this recipe, make sure to check this next recipe out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.